The grass fades and the flower withers, but his word will stand forever. God says, if I honor him with the tithe, I will open up the windows of heaven. Window represents opportunity. Opportunity. God opens windows and doors. He also closes doors too. And when God closes, you don't want God to close doors on you, because when he closed that door in that ark, nobody can get in.
Right.
If God closes the door, it's shut. You do whatever you want to, but you're not getting in. But if God opens the door for you, no weapon. Because he opened the door. And if the devil could close the door, then the message it would send is that the devil has more power than him.
Sure.
So I want God's doors open for me. And I've learned over the years, it's not so important how man view me. It's how God views me. Now, it's the human element in all of us to be accepted by man. But that's not where we should park. The issue is, does God accept us? So my blessings come from him. All of my help comes from the Lord. So when I understand that tithing opens up doors and windows of opportunities for me, then I won't play games with that, because to be blessed in this life, you're going to need favor. You're going to need some doors open for you that you don't deserve to have open for you. Above all, you're going to need favor in this life. Have all the money you want. But I've learned something about money. Money is tricky. Money has a way of disappearing. But once God opens a door for you, a window for you, no man can close it. And when God opens a window of opportunity, what's flowing through it as far as your resources, no man can shut down.
Right.
That's a fact. Because, see, the problem with me as a pastor is, oh, Lord, help me. You're going to make me preach. I'm trying to become.
Preach, Pastor, preach.
See, when I tell my congregation the problem with me is, I tell them I'm really talking about y'all, but I'm just using me as a buffer to soften the blow. The problem with me is I trust flesh too much. As pastors, we're tempted, because the checks come from the people, we tend to put our faith in the people, not understanding that they're not our source. They're simply channels of supply.
Channels of supply.
Channels of supply. The source is heaven. He opens the windows. The people come in. They bless the ministry. Right?
Yep.
And don't minimize that now, because the Bible said the heart of the king is in the hand of the Lord. People don't come to changing lives because I'm wonderful. People come to changing lives because God's hand and his favor is on the ministry, and favor is better than money. Because there's some things money can't get you out of, but favor. There's some doors money cannot open because there are people who are richer than you. But favor can open those doors. And what is favor? The willingness of others to use their power, their might, their resources, their influence in this world to point at you and says so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. Favor is better than money. So when God says that he'll open the windows of opportunities, the windows of heaven, and pour you out a blessing, which is opportunities, don't play games with that. I don't want to live this life and not have doors open for me. So how important is tithing? Critical. Pastor Yaz and I don't play with it. If you hand me $1,000 at the end of this podcast, it's great job, Pastor. No, you're not going to do that. But let the Lord lead you. strategic purposes only.
Yes.
It did do that, right? The moment I get to my house, I'm going to count those 10 $100 bills. And the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to separate it and put it on my dresser. Label it, tithe. Then I may break off $50 or maybe put another $100 as the offering. And I'll put the other 8 in my pocket. What have I done? I freed myself from the tithe and offering. Number one, I've honored God. That keeps my favor window open because I've honored him. I freed myself from that. Why is it important to say it that way? Because if I keep the $1,000 in my pocket, I'm liable to spend it.
Sure.
But when I separate it, I freed myself from it. Now there's no temptation to spend it because I don't have it. It's somewhere else. What I've learned over the years is that God pays attention to these types of things. I like to put it this way. God keeps good books.
Right.
God keeps good ledgers. He sees when we separate the tithe and the offering from our money. In Scripture, he says, you've robbed me in another place. And he says, you've put what belongs to me amongst your own. God's tithes and offering does not belong in your bank account unless you have direct deposit or you have a check and you deposit it. The moment it clears, separate it because there must be a separation. Is that a big deal, Pastor? It's not a big deal. It's semantics. It is not semantics. God pays attention to the details.
Right.
So really, I pray for people that don't tithe, but it's a limited prayer. I'm not praying for God to bless them. I'm praying that God will give them the grace to see that they need to obey what he has put in place and return what rightfully belongs to him.
Wow. This is some powerful nuggets. We're speaking about tithing and offering, and I'm telling you, this is impactful. Why don't you ask someone to join in, send the link to them, and subscribe, because we're learning some very powerful truths. So the offering, Pastor, is that really free will? There is no criteria on the offering. I can give $1 or I can give $1,000. Is there no sort of benchmark in terms of what the offering should be?
No, well, as far as dollars are concerned, no. As far as your heart is concerned, yes. I would dare say that when it comes to tithing and offering, the thing that's most valuable to God is the offering.
More than the tithe?
More than the tithe. The tithe, you are obeying him, so you're going to be blessed. The offering, he looks at differently because it's a free will gift. He's asking you for an offering, but he doesn't tell you how much to give. It's a heart thing. Bible talks about a woman who gave 1 mite. Remember that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And because men lined up to give and they put great deals of money into the offering.
Jesus said her sacrifice.
Jesus looked at what she gave. She gave 1 mite. And Jesus said she gave more than all the people that put big money in. God looked past the dollar amount and saw her heart. They gave what they could afford. She gave what she couldn't stand to lose. And God said she gave more. Why was it more for God? Can God count? Is he poor at math? No. He saw her heart. And she gave it from here. And even though it was less than what everybody else was giving, it was all she had. Now, I'm not suggesting that you give all your money.
Sure.
I'm simply saying the offering comes from here. You understand what I'm saying? When you gave me the $1,000, right? And I took out the $100, that's the tithe. I have a decision to make on the 9. How much of the 9 am I going to contribute? I can contribute $1 and it would still be appropriate. But it would say something to God about my heart. When I peel off another 100 and said, that's the offering.
Wow.
I mean, what that says to God is I mean something to him. Let me say something else about the tithe, because a lot of believers don't understand that the tithe is not just 10%. The tithe is much bigger than 10%. The tithe is not just 10% of the 1,000. If you gave me $1,000, the tithe is not just $100. The tithe is the first $100. When I teach this at the church, I put 10 men on my stage, and I hand them each $100. And what I do is I have them all hold $100 up in their hand, and I teach my church, and I ask them, which one do you think is the tithe? Some people say it doesn't matter. I said, it does matter. They're all $100. Which one is the tithe? Because they're all $100, Pastor. Aren't they all the tithe?
Sure.
No. Only one of those men are holding the tithe. Which one is it? The very first man. See, the tithe is not about money. The tithe is about honor. God has this little issue about being second or third. God cannot be second. He cannot be third. He must be first. The tithing principle goes this way. It's personal to God. You must understand that. Why? Because Jesus is God's tithe. When God wanted the world, he tithed Jesus, his firstborn.
That's deep.
He couldn't have gotten us without the tithe. That's why Jesus said, is there any other way? Do I have to go through this? God said, you have to. You're the tithe, for God's sake. It's the principle of one for many. It's the principle that says the first governs the rest. The first $100 bill governs the other 9. What we do with the first $100 bill has a lot to do with how the other 9 play out in our lifetime. Don't think checks. Think lifetime. What we do with the first $100 bill has a lot to do with how the other 9 plays out throughout the course of life. The principle. It's a principle with God. One for many. It's the principle that says the first governs the rest. And God says, if you don't spend the first $100 on the light bill, don't spend it on the mortgage, don't spend it on the car note, because GMAC does not have the power to bless the other 9 bills. I have the power to blow on the other 9 bills.
Everybody has value. And so man has the value as the head of the house. The woman has value as she is the helpmate. But in this culture, 2025, if we're talking about, if you think your value is about how much money you bring to the marriage, then you've already lost. You're already doing yourself a disservice. And so if that's what we're talking about, as far as what do I bring to the table? Like, that's the big question. What do you bring to the table? That's what women are asking. What do you bring to the table? I'm bringing my protection. I'm bringing my resources. I'm bringing my experiences. And if she's bringing the same thing, this is what I would want to ask.
In some scenarios, she's bringing more.
More money, more influence, more...
Well, more money,
okay.
Potentially.
Yeah.
It depends. A female ran for president the other day.
I mean, she was literally the vice president.
It was like vice
Harris
president.
was the vice president.
So now you're in a home now in this season.
Yeah.
And the female has influence and has potentially money, maybe on some occasions more than her husband. What happens when there's a disagreement?
It depends on what kind of marriage you want. Like, let's call a spade a spade. Like, what kind of marriage? What kind of marriage do you want? Do you want to? Do you want a marriage that is fulfilling, or do you want a marriage that is keeping score?
Sure.
The biblical model teaches us that she is the helpmate. That doesn't mean she's subservient. Actually, when I read that text, wives, submit to your husbands as Christ, as husbands as Christ has submitted himself to the church. Right? When I read that and when I listen to that, I think about a woman should not submit herself to any man, any husband that doesn't have a vision of provision. That doesn't necessarily mean money. That means if you can't provide it financially, you should be able to provide it spiritually,
emotionally,
relationally. Like if the conversation is always going to be around resources and how much money you make, and I have say so in what we do with our money, you should, because you're not under me. You're helping serve the vision that God has given me. So if we're trying to figure out the biblical model for marriage, you need to have a vision. And if you want a godly woman, or if you want to be a godly woman, sis, you need to find a man that has a vision that you can connect to. What does that mean? It literally means if his vision is only big enough for himself, it's not a vision that is big enough for you.
True.
You can't get in it.
It's
not big enough for you. So I guess my thought about it is, it's tough.
But I like the point you're making.
It's tough.
The reason I like the point you're making about having that vision, if you don't have the resources yet, and I think we should use that word yet, because if you have vision, eventually it will come to pass with the help of God.
Absolutely.
Even if she is making more than you. I had a situation in the UK, in the church I was in, where I'm pastoring, that there was a female making considerably more money than the male. But he did have a vision. And she took some of those resources and helped him with the vision, real estate. And he was able to really build a portfolio and superseded the income of his wife.
Can I tell you something? That was my story.
Really?
That was my story.
Wow.
When I met Bree, my wife, she was making more money than me.
Wow. Doing what?
She was in sales.
Wow.
Sales and in marketing. She was making way more money than me.
Wow.
And so now when we got married, she was still making more money than me when we got married.
Right.
But it was something in me that saw my wife working and connecting the dots that made me say to myself, like, I got to do something.
Right.
But without the help of my wife, the vision that God gave me would have never come to fruition. So everything I'm doing now is a byproduct of my wife's partnership.
That's powerful. You know why it's powerful? It's powerful from two aspects.
Yeah.
One, your wife was able to help and say, no, this is mine. You do it yourself. That was partnership.
Yeah.
But two, you had the humility of what many males don't have, which is, I'm going to marry someone who's got making more than me and still making more within marriage. That would give some men sleepless nights. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if I could do it.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily a virtue.
Yeah.
I think what you did is a greater virtue than because that's good.
Yeah. Like I for me, and maybe it's because of what I've seen in my house, I saw my father as the provider.
Right.
I saw, and I'm now seeing in my wife's home, he was the provider as well. Her father was the provider.
Oh yeah, yeah. Big
And
time.
so, right. So there is that, I guess, pressure
to reproduce.
to reproduce, because you don't just marry the person, you marry the person's history. And if you are going to go an unconventional way, whatever you're going to do, bro, man of God, I'm with you. But just know you're marrying history, whether it's good history or bad history. So that means you're fighting good history because you got to be better than the good history, or you're fighting bad history and you got to be better than the bad history. For me, she came from a history of being provided for.
Wow.
So I could not provide. I could not come home and not pay the bills. I could not pay for her car. I had to do those things because that's what she came from. And I think if more men looked at themselves in the mirror, I have this thought. I think the problem with a lot of men is that we look out the window instead of the mirror. When we look out the window, you see what everybody else is doing. But when you look at the mirror, you have to have a conversation with yourself. I think more men need to have a conversation with themselves about what is the quality of life that I want to have, and am I willing to do that kind of work so that when I find that woman, or when I'm in the marriage, because you don't have to do that before you get a marriage, you can do that while you're in the marriage. When I'm in the marriage, that I can help her become the helpmate that she actually wants to be.
See, I got a question. That's good. I got a question.
The helpmate that she wants to be.
Yeah.
Not that you want her to be. Because if you provide for her in a way and create a safe space for her in a way, she's going to flourish in the garden that you put her in, Adam.
Absolutely. But I want to ask you, and also it takes a level of humility as well.
Yeah.
And also a level of virtue, I believe, from your wife to say, I'm going to be patient and then watch you grow.
Right.
Because some females would be they would use that as a, as a way to sort of dominate rather than to say, let me pour into. But here's what's interesting. Your father-in-law, being real close. I think I met him through Bishop and Pastor Deborah Morton.
Okay.
So he's real close with them, big time. Mm-hmm. How did he feel, or did he know about you marrying his daughter and she was earning more than you, or was it not an issue? Obviously, at that time, I
don't think he knew.
Okay.
But I think he saw potential.
That's good.
Right? And so he could see what it could be. So he knew that I was a person of high character and I came from good stock.
And aspiration.
Right. So it wasn't a matter of if, it was really a matter of when for me.
Sure.
So that's what I would probably say, that he didn't know, but
he knew the trajectory.
He knew the trajectory.
Yeah.
And he's wise. Yeah, my dad, he's wise. I knew. Yeah.
Okay, so that's good.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Okay, we've got another aspect we want to really talk about. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes this is skated over when this subject comes up about romance in marriage and keeping it alive. You just kind of get to church and people skate over it. People are watching. And how is it, again, myself as well, and I'll put in here, but in terms of being married, when you're dating, and I met my wife when I was 18, and
what?
Yeah, real young. Got married at 20, and
wow.
Basically, how do you keep romance alive? Because when you're dating on those at that stage, you're putting your best foot forward, and you're doing all that you need to in terms of keeping it alive. How do you keep it alive at this stage of marriage, keeping things, romantic, because that aspect is very, very important.
Yeah.
Keeping the eros love going,
Mm-hmm.
and the bedroom and
Mm-hmm.
all that good stuff. So how does that work? How do you keep that going and keep that aspect alive? So you're not just married to your wife, you're still almost dating as well. You're keeping that angle going.
Yeah, I would preface it by saying, wise man once said to me one time, on the wedding day, most men think that that's the finish line. But women on the wedding day, that's the starting line.
That's a wise man.
Right? And so men think on the wedding day, I did it. The work is done.
Right.
Women think the work can finally begin.
Sure.
So I would say for us, for me and my marriage, we set dates. We schedule dates. We schedule dating times. We're going to go out to eat. Then we're going to do something adventurous. Then we're going to do stuff that we like to do. And then I'm going to do something that I might not like to do, that she likes to do. I think it's a matter of, in the whole, what is it? The love languages. They say you got to fill your partner's love, your partner's tank.
Yeah.
And so for my wife, I know her love language, and love languages change. Like the wife that she was at 27 is not the wife she is now.
Be at home and I can get all the stretches. And do I need weights? What equipment do I need? See, the gym has the equipment.
It does. Pastor, I'm grateful that you just said that, because I've trained clients when they, people get lower. Okay, I got to go buy this first, and then I got to go buy my uniform, and I got to get this and get that. No, you don't. Anything that has weight. We got cans at home. We got bottles of water at home. You got, heavy containers at home that's in the refrigerator. You can use that. I'm making it easy for the individual and making it easy for them to know that they are being cared for. And that's what's important, because some people feel like nobody cares about me, or I can't get help, or I have to be at a certain place to exercise. No. It's the same thing. The word is everywhere. We can find it. You Google it. Come on, Pastor. We got this new technology now. It's not how back in the days we have to go to the library and be a member to go to a library and take a book out and hope the book is there. Now we just have to Google it up and then it pops up. Yes.
So you made it easier as well.
Oh, man, listen,
do that.
Making it easy for them. Trust me, because I've been there through the years of fitness. It's the same thing. Being a fitness coach, I love to educate other coaches out there, because they want to know the business perspective. So what I do is I share knowledge with them. It's not about me getting back anything. It's about you taking yourself to the next level to help another brother or sister out. And even in the churches, because there are, I'm sorry to say this, but it's a lack of things going on in the church that's not benefiting the people. The lack of fitness, the lack of health, even though they have the health fair, but they have it once a year. And what does that do for the other people? Because they need more than that. They need it at least once a week or once a month to give them more information, because you only have a certain time and you can't give them everything. If it's like 3-4 hours, you can't just give everything in that time. So you have to break certain things down so people can get it. And that's why I share with you. There's some people can get it like that. Some people have to take a little, they work slower and then they will get it.
But, I understand.
Right. So that's why it's so important for me. I'm always trying to share this, even with social media, that we have to have more than just once a year, with this arena of fitness. Like they have the they go out there, you get yourself blood pressure check or whatever.
It's going to be a regular occurrence.
Yes.
Can I ask you this?
Yes, sir.
So are you saying, so we have sleep, we have what we eat, we have fitness.
Mm-hmm.
Which one of those three is most important? Or are you saying they're all as important as each other?
All is important, because it's like it's like this. Thank you, Lord. It's one body, but it has different parts. So you need all those parts to make that whole body as one.
I've got to ask you this question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you an imaginary person. Let me call her Mrs. Jane
Mm-hmm.
and Mr. Fred.
Mm-hmm.
She works 12 hours a day,
Mm-hmm.
and she travels to work for an hour
Mm-hmm.
and back for an hour. So that's 14 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then she has 8 hours sleep,
Mm-hmm.
according to what's recommended. So now I'm up to 22 hours.
I know what you mean.
She hasn't had dinner yet.
Right. I know what you mean.
Or watched anything or spoke to the
Mm-hmm.
family. And he, again, has a similar pattern.
Mm-hmm.
But he, I suppose a bit like myself, travels a lot,
Mm-hmm.
is in and out doing a lot, very,
Right.
very active. Where can you find the time in a pattern like that? Because obviously what you're saying, that could seem like more of an ideal, where you've got a pattern that there is time.
Right.
Some people are very time poor.
Mm-hmm.
How do you find the time in that schedule to have the plan and the pattern and the sleep and the exercise and do it all? So what would your recommendation be?
Pastor, I'm so grateful for you bringing that up,
Mm-hmm.
because this is the reason why I always give my clients is a evaluation.
Okay.
The evaluation, I always to break down on the certain things about what type of work do you do? Are you sitting down? Are you on your feet? How long you work? Excuse me. Also, do you have time through the day from work? Because I know you have to have time to eat. So you have to have a little time to do something that's going to benefit you along the way. Now, I have a good friend of mine. I trained her before for the beginning.
Yeah.
Her name is Dan Pierre, and she's a elder of the church. So I got her started because she just needed motivation. And her type is she works a long period of times, but she's a member of the gym, but she works out at home. But she has a little weights, so she makes sure, okay, I have a long day, I just get my 15, 20 minutes, a workout, and I'm gone. You see what I'm saying? So she's making it mandatory that she's putting that in before she leaves. Because I know everybody is busy, even myself. But I got to look at my schedule. Okay, I start work at 8 o'clock. I have lunch 12 o'clock. I have an hour to get something to eat. Okay, I'm going to break that down into my 30 minutes to work out and then my 30 minutes to eat. So I always share this with people. There's no excuses.
Right.
There is no excuses.
So you're saying 20 minutes is better than no minutes.
It's better than nothing, Pastor. Let me say it. I always share this to people when I do my videos. The minimum is 30, but if you can do less, that's fine with me. That allows
so minimum fitness should be 30 minutes.
Yes. That allows things to start working. Blood start flowing through the heart. The blood flow to your brain, through your body. That is so important. And it makes you think better as well. But when you don't do nothing, things start to damage the inside of you. You can look good outside now, but what's going on in the inside of your temple?
Wow. So that 30 minutes should it be cardio? Should it be weight training? And what do you think about HIIT?
Hits is fine. Anything that
what is HIIT again?
Now I heard of it. It's like a quick.
Yeah.
It's a quick workout.
Yes.
Right, but it's not for everybody. So where you are now is where you can be at in the next month, 3 months. That's the reason why I'm always about this evaluation.
Sure.
Because there's some people I have one of my clients who is trying to fit a dress. Okay. So we have the picture of her putting on the dress so it's tight. So I said, I know what I have to do for her to get where she needs to be at. Those are important parts for me to know what's going on. So that's why we got to keep communication is key.
Wow. So again,
Mhm.
what you've got weight training,
Mhm.
you've got cardio
Mhm.
training. Which ones do you think is most important? If you have half an hour, you have 30 minutes,
You can.
which one?
It depends on the person, because sometimes some people only can work out once a week, and my thing is once a week at least is better than nothing. But
Right.
the minimum should be 2 times a week.
Twice a week.
Right.
For 30 minutes.
It can be 30 minutes. So what you can do is, it depends on the person's goals as well, but that 30 minutes, you can do 15 minutes of cardio and 15 minutes of your workout.
Got it.
But there's no excuses.
What would a workout look like?
It depends on the person's goals. I was about to say that.
But some people have goals. Like when I go to the gym,
Mhm.
I see some people, they're doing all this muscle thing,
Yeah.
but they're not necessarily fit
Yeah,
in
I
terms
know.
of their art. So it's aesthetics.
Yes.
So if somebody comes in and wants to look an aesthetic, have muscles, but they're not fit,
Right.
surely they should be, and as a trainer, you would be advising them, look, I want you to be fit,
Yeah.
rather than just to try
Right.
it look good,
Right. You see, that's the whole thing about it, Pastor. I've been doing it for a very long time. Sometimes people go there for show.
Sure.
For show.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and now what bothers me so much is because people have the social media with their phones. Oh my gosh. Before you because one thing about me, I'm very serious.
Right.
I'm trying to tell you, when I put my earphones on, it's a go.
Right.
It's go time. People cannot, they call me Flex because they call me, I'm Coach Flex. So,
Okay, so you're Coach Flex.
yes.
Hear
So,
that, everyone? This is Coach Flex
yes,
now.
Coach Flex in the house. So they call me Flex. Yo, Flex, what's up? And then they're like, yo, you didn't hear me call him? I'm like, listen, I'm on my zone. I am on my zone.
When you're working out?
Yes, I am on my zone.
How long do you do?
It depends on what type of goals I'm striving for, because I did a bodybuilding competition years ago.
Okay.
My wife was there and my father, so that's another story. But the thing about it is I had to put in about an hour and a half of workout, weight training, and the 30 minutes of cardio.
In one session?
Yes,
How many times a week?
I have to go 5 days a week.
What,
So-
even now?
No.
Oh, when you was doing the
when I
bodybuilding.
was competing.
So what do you do now?
I'm still in the health. I'm still doing weight training, but my goal is a little different.
Okay.
So,
So you spend how long?
40. If I have the time, an hour.
Okay.
An hour.
So, and around that time, God was revealing, I think, certain gifts in me that I didn't know I had, and I kind of started like diving deeper into that, and the deeper that I went into that, the more it pulled me away from my plan going into law, so to speak. So I made the shift directly after college. I had already took the LSAT, knew what what college I was gonna go to. I mean, not college, law school I was gonna go to, and then like right before like crunch time, I was kind of like, all right, I hear you, Lord. I don't understand it. Let me just make the switch. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well done. That's great. I want to speak about bridging the communication gap
Mhm.
between the younger generation and the maturer generation.
Mhm.
There was a research actually um, that was done, and it says that 58% of young people feel misunderstood by older generations. Um, what's your thoughts about that in terms of young people being misunderstood?
I can definitely see that because one, it's we're living in a different world, right? Like social media, even prior 2013, social media wasn't really a thing, and that was when I graduated high school, and I remember um, in middle school, all we had was MySpace, and then high school, Facebook had became a thing, and so I feel like that's when we really like the world really started getting a taste of social media, and it kind of started to become like very ingrained in our everyday life. And nowadays, that's essentially what this new generation and some of my generation is still experiencing. And I think our parents, because they didn't have to deal with that, there may be some things that they just don't understand. So a lot of things get kind of lost in translation. It's like, well, why are you always on Instagram? Why are you always on your TikTok? And it's just like, for them, it's kind of like, this is just what we do. Their whole world is on that. People are barely going outside. You're talking to your friends through social media. You're seeing the world through social media in a sense, and it's kind of building up your view of what life should be and what the world should look like and how people should interact. So I think you're just kind of seeing like those two opposing sides like trying to reconcile with each other and they just don't understand
Sure.
you know.
So you're saying it's coming from such a different perspective
Mhm.
that the maturer generation failed to recognize
Mhm.
how things may have evolved or changed or developed.
Yeah.
So as a result of that, they may say it's wrong, but to the generations, it's not wrong. It's just different.
Mhm.
Is that what you're saying there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for them, this is just life,
Sure.
and they're not wrong in that it is life. This is, I think the struggle with the two generations is I feel like the older generations are constantly, not everyone, of course, but there's a consistent. Back in my day, we did it like this, and it's like we're not in your day anymore. Things are not run that way, and with the younger generation, it's very much so like. I think sometimes we can fail to realize that while the world around us is evolving and it's changing, we're dealing with the same issues. People were still depressed in the 80s. People were even if they didn't call it depression, people were dealing with the same emotions. We're fighting the same battles. It's just technology and the landscape around it. It's different, so it manifests a little bit differently, or you kind of have to deal with it a little bit more different than maybe how you would have before.
That makes perfect sense. How do you think the younger generation can communicate with the older generation without losing their identity?
Mm. I think one, sharing perspective is always important. Like with your younger generation, I feel like you can you can put your parents, or you can put your aunts and uncles or your mentor, whoever it is, you can teach them about, social media. You can teach them the latest trends and stuff like that. Not necessarily so they can be involved in it, but at the very least so they can understand it. So now when they're approaching you, they're not coming from this foreign perspective. They're coming from a little bit more an empathetic and a place of more understanding. I
That's good.
I think that it starts there, like just information sharing on both ends.
Sure. So information going back and forth so that there can be a greater level of understanding.
Mhm.
Um, what traditions or principles do you believe the older generation um, tried to instill or download to the younger generation that you think is valuable?
Mm. For one, I'll say one of the things that you see we're struggling with in modern day society, gender roles.
Yeah.
I feel like that gets a negative connotation now, and it shouldn't because it's biblical. God made Adam and Eve, and they had very specific functions. And throughout the Bible, man has a very specific function, and a woman has a very specific function. It's not to say one is lesser than the other, but we complement each other. And I think nowadays what you see is there's a group of women who are competing with men, and there's a group of men who are kind of like sitting down, sitting back, and not taking on the responsibility that they should. So I think that's one of the things that the older generations should definitely continue instilling in their kids and the youth in general. If you're working with kids or something, it's just allowing them to see that it's okay to embrace, you being a man and her being a woman. Like that's how society, a healthy society should function.
Sure.
So gender roles for sure. And I would say coupled with that, marriage. I think nowadays there's an overwhelming majority of people who say they don't want to get married, but I think they actually do. But I think society has told them you don't need somebody to tether you down or to kind of keep you from being able to explore what life has to offer. Whereas it's like, no, this is a union protected by God, and if you embrace it, you can both build each other up. And the whole point of marriage is to save the institution of family, So it's a very special union. I don't think people realize that anymore. You have people treating their girlfriends or their boyfriends like they would their spouse. And it's like you can love your girlfriend and boyfriend, all that is fine, but understand there is a difference. Like you guys have not sanctified that union as of yet. So I think without going down like a rabbit hole of that, just understanding and respecting, things like that, respecting gender roles, respecting marriage. Those are two top of mind that I feel like are most valuable and needed in today's culture.
Wow, that's powerful. I absolutely agree. I think that some of these values are being lost and blurred, and as a result of that, you may get a weaker society, and that's a real issue. So I believe some of that needs to be, addressed and embraced so that we can sort of move forward in that. What are some of the points, I can't say traditions now, but some of the principles you think the older generation can learn from the younger generation? Now, we understand that being a younger person, we're going to learn more
Hmm.
usually from those who are more advanced. They've seen more, they've been through more, they've experienced more. And so that's just a reality of the situation. However, there are still learning curves
Yeah.
and learning points that can be adopted and actually can help the shelf life as well. I was speaking to or on the phone with two bishops and um, notable and one of the things they said on the phone was that the younger generation helps them stay relevant and helps their shelf life and gives them vitality. So I thought that was quite poignant and interesting in the way that they spoke about it, because I was really there to learn, but they was also saying their points that they can learn as well. So what just a couple of things you think the older generation may be able to learn or grasp from the younger generation?
Well, I think the younger generation can help the older generation stay, what's the word? Innovative. The older generations, I feel like oftentimes you can get set in your ways if you've been doing something a certain way a long time. And so I feel like generations now are much more open minded. And of course that has its pitfalls, but in general it's a good thing to be open minded. It's a good thing to be able to see things from different perspectives. And I think one of the benefits of living in a social media society, you're able to see so many different walks of life. And while it can be information overload at times, what you are being able to pull from that is, okay, they do things like this over here and they do things like this over there. And it allows you to kind of be more not accepting, but rather empathetic to other people who may be experiencing life in different ways and in different regions of the world. So I think younger people have been able to develop that, and that's something that they can give to some of the older generations to help them not stay so stuck in their ways and make them a little bit less judgmental, at least come across less judgmental.
I want to invite you specifically to come along on Sundays at 10:30 a.m. so you can be a part of our awesome Sunday service. Worship is extraordinary. The word is power-packed, and someone will meet you there right at the door. So I want you to come along to that. You're also watching. Can I please encourage you to give, because this helps us to continue to take the ministry literally all over the world and within the New York area. So I want you to be a blessing. The QR code is on the screen. So I want you to tap into that and be a part of what we're doing. And lastly, let me say our new website has been launched. And again, the website is on the screen. Why don't you log on to that and just see what the ministry is doing, and let's navigate ourselves around so we can do what God needs us to do. Listen, stay blessed and favored of God. We will be back with another episode, and we know that your life will change for the better. God bless you and heaven smile on you.
It is our desire to keep you posted on what's happening here at Changing Lives Christian Center. So please pull out your smart devices so you can take notes and save dates. CLCC and New York City Council member Chris Banks presents Community Outreach, hosted by CLCC's healthcare team, Saturday, August 16th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's a one-day community health fair with food, fun, free health screenings, CPR training, blood pressure testing, giveaways, back-to-school supplies, face painting, and much more. Medical professionals on site for Q&As, activities for all ages. This will be a free event, so save the date. Visit the info desk for more details. Do you need prayer? It doesn't matter for what. CLCC is here to stand in prayer with you and for you. Let's take it to the Lord, for He cares about all of the needs you have. God has commanded us to always pray and not faint. His word declares that when we pray, believing, that He will always answer. So join CLCC's prayer leaders Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. That's right, 30 minutes for prayer and encouragement to start your day. We look forward to you calling into our conference prayer line, 646 769-9900. Access code 82551. Remember, come and dial believing. The Master awaits your prayer request. Join CLCC in remembrance of current world events.